thinking college football. They're thinking first place Orioles. They're thinking West Coast, maybe heading down to the beach like Luke Jones is doing with us this week. But, we're trying to move around here a little bit, and certainly with the changes down at College Park, we're going to talk some college football right now. We're going to get out to the horseshoe, as they say. He's out in Columbus, Ohio, covering all things college football for the Sporting News as a national college football writer. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at BillBender92. We welcome Bill Bender on his maiden voyage here at WNST. What's going on, Bill? Happy summer to you out there in the friendly heart of the Midwest.
Hey, happy summer to you as well. It's so good to be on. We're in that slow time of year, but things are obviously going to get ramped up here in a few weeks, and just trying to plug away as we get there.
Dude, I've driven from Columbus to Cleveland, Columbus to Cincinnati, Cincinnati to Indianapolis, Cincinnati to Louisville. In Columbus, are you claiming any portion of this Cavalier thing, or are you just kind of waiting for the Buckeyes to start?
No, I grew up in Central Ohio, but I'm not going to claim to be like Cleveland Cavs super fan or anything like that, but, my wife's from up there. Her grandpa was, he was the one I was most happy for. He's a 91-year-old, and one of our first conversations was about the 64 Browns.
That's perfect, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm happy for the city of Cleveland, and as you've noticed, the Indians are taking that momentum. They may just have unlocked everything for that city with that championship.
I'm just wondering, if in Columbus right now, the little pop-up tents have posted up selling, world champion Cavs. Does your wife and your father-in-law, they already have their Cavs, hats and shirts and all that?
There's plenty of Cavs fans in Columbus. I think from a pro sports standpoint, it gets interesting with the NFL and college, or NFL and baseball, basically, because Central Ohio is kind of, there's if we're talking NFL, there's a little bit of Browns, a little bit of Bengals, and even a little bit of Steelers. But, when it comes to college football, this is Buckeye country, and they get after it. I try to follow them as much as I can. I went to Ohio University, though, so I'm one of those MAC guys that enjoyed my time down there.
Yeah, one of the darkest days in Maryland history for me was opening the season and losing to a 5'8" option quarterback in Maryland. I think that was the Vanderlinden period or Duffner. I'm not sure when it was. But Ohio kicked Maryland's ass at Byrd Stadium one year to start the season. I do remember that.
Was that a Kareem Wilson game?
I think that was. A guy wearing green. He was short. That's all I remember.
Yeah, that sounds like the Kareem Wilson game. That was under Jim Grobe, a guy that obviously is back in the spotlight as well. At Baylor. So, again, a guy that I've been telling all summer, if you trust the process there and trust him, because they can't find a higher character coach than Jim Grobe. I think if they trust the process there, he'll help clean things up.
Well, we've got all sorts of teams, whether turmoil, losing players, recruiting players. Obviously, in Maryland, we have our situation here with Durkin. You're out in the heart of the Big Ten. You've been there for, forever, kind of bred into the soil. Maryland's kind of new to this and figuring its way out on the football side. Certainly, there's going to be the influx of the Kevin Plank, funding and all that stuff that's going on there to build the bigger, better program. Did they select the right guy in Durkin in your mind?
I think so, because I'll put it to you this way. I work with a couple Maryland grads, and they were not happy when they first joined the Big Ten. And I'm this diehard Big Ten guy. I've been around it my whole life. And I was kind of filling them in. I was like, can't you wait for that game at Minnesota, just to kind of chide them a little bit. But I think it shows they're getting serious. I mean, Durkin learned under Meyer and Harbaugh, which are kind of the two it guys in the Big Ten right now anyway. And Maryland, it's a serious division. Look who they're in with three. Not only they're in with three top 10 programs right now, with Michigan, Michigan State, and Ohio State. And I know they've kind of targeted Penn State as the team they'd get after a little bit, but I think Durkin can do it. He's already made a little bit of a splash on the recruiting trail. And that area of the country, I was surprised. I get surprised every time I see it. That's a really good area for high school football that he can tap into if he can do it successfully.
Well, it wasn't years ago, but I think with the Ravens, especially in, Ravens and Redskins, there's plenty of football being played here, and the Eagles right up the road and the Steelers out to the west side. Maryland always went to New Jersey to get quarterbacks and New York to get quarterbacks, whether it was the Gelballs and the Esiasons and, all the guys of that era when they had glamour quarterbacks, if not glamour programs, and would consistently lose to Penn State 63-7 or whatever, and float along in the ACC until Florida State kicked their butt. The Big Ten has shown that there's no rest going to Iowa or going to Northwestern or going to Penn State or Purdue or any of these other places. It's a football conference. I mean, there's no doubt about that, and they've done okay basketball-wise early on and getting out onto that road, and some of those trips are kind of weird in the wintertime. But, I like the move, man. I mean, I was never passionately against it. I wasn't one of those guys that felt like they had to go down to Tobacco Road and play, and I missed the basketball side of that. But, I mean, I see this for even being larger than the money involved, though that was obviously the play. I do see that they're going to have to get better if they're going to go out to Ann Arbor and Columbus and see the Spartans and see those teams every year. They're going to have to be better and raise the bar.
Yeah, I think Maryland, just from, when they came in as an outsider, I'm, not an insider to Maryland, but my surface judgment on them was, I knew about the basketball program for years. Gary Williams, the former Ohio State coach that went out there and his career really took off. And then, so I figured it was basketball first, and that's shown. That their basketball team has done really well in the Big Ten so far. But the football side of it is, it's kind of a learning curve because Rutgers is finding out the same thing. It is serious business in Columbus. It's not life or death, but it's a religion
the next thing.
Columbus. Yeah, it's the closest thing. It's a religion in Columbus. It's a religion in Ann Arbor. You've seen Jim Harbaugh and Urban Meyer, how big they are, and even Mark D'Antonio at Michigan State, just huge, larger. And then as you go further even west, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, they're all really serious. If you could give them a choice between football and basketball, they're going to take the football success.
Well, I don't even need to tell you about Penn State. They built statues for, need I say more, there,
Right.
We knew what they were up against, and it really is going to take better kids on the field, and, some of that happens with a lot of hocus pocus and hokey pokey, right? But they're not going to win at this level with what they've done in the past.
I think it's harder to be an 8-win team in the Big Ten than it is in the ACC. And I like the ACC conference right now in football. I like Clemson, Florida State. I like the coaches they brought in. But, it's tough. You got to get after it. I think Maryland in their first season, going out to Michigan and winning when Michigan was a mess, that might have been a little bit of a tease because now they have Harbaugh. But like I said, the key for Durkin right now is that recruiting. And, just from a X's and O's standpoint, they had disastrous quarterback play last season. They need to fix that right away.
Well, and that's the hardest thing to do, right? Every NFL team's trying to fix their quarterback situation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in college, they just had too many interceptions. They turned the ball over. Maryland has guys with some talent. I love that cornerback. Likely, he's a player. And but you just need more than one at this level. And I think they're a team that, depending on right now, the way the Big Ten East is situated, is like I said, you got those three programs. Penn State's kind of in the middle, and Maryland, they're fighting with Indiana, Rutgers, but Maryland could fight into that fourth place this year. They could do that, but then, it takes that extra set of work to, get after it against Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State, who have had cycle after cycle of recruits come in there.
Bill Bender covering all things college football for Sporting News out in Columbus, Ohio. You can follow his journey on Twitter at BillBender92. And you did a little coaching thing here that you released out at Sporting News this week that we found kind of interesting in ranking where the coaches are. DJ Durkin is now a member of that club, but who's at the top of the club? Well, I guess Saban's at the top of the club, right? You better start with him. But then you start to work down the chain a little bit and talk about who these top coaches are and what makes them successful at this level for long, long stretches of time.
Yeah, I like the top 10 a lot. The top 10's really good. And, when you go in and do a list like that, I always tell people I kind of do a little bit of the overall record, a little bit of last year's record, a little bit of the record with the current school, and then a little bit of just kind of barstool talk, like, hey, would you take this guy over this guy? I do all that, make this big list, big spreadsheet, have a lot of fun with it, and then I get all these emails telling me how terrible it is. So,
of course.
Yeah, but that's the fun part for me is just kind of, oh, man, I might have had that guy too high or too low. But I really did have a lot of fun putting it together. The Big Ten side was fun. But the hardest part, is I think there are 29 or 30 new coaches, and where do you slot a first-year coach in? It can be a lot of hard.
Yeah, how do we know what DJ Durkin's going to do, right? How do we know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Him and, out of the Big Ten alone, you got Chris Ash, you got Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith's interesting, by the way. I think he's going to do good at Illinois. And
almost forgot about that till you brought it up, right?
Well, yeah, Illinois has had three coaches in the last 300 days, and that's a headache too. But Illinois is another program. You can draw parallels to Maryland there. Because Illinois sits in a decent part of the country. If they could recruit Chicago well, they've always had some talent. They had talent with Ron Zook. And that might be actually, we've kind of stumbled on this, that could be a model for Maryland to follow football-wise when they have the talent. I mean, Illinois has been to a Rose Bowl in the last decade, and they've sent a lot of players to the NFL.
Bill, for you in putting this thing together, does it really begin with Saban? And, and I think to some degree, Jim Harbaugh is famous, but, is he really a top 5 college coach yet? I don't know, right? I think the jury's still out on some of these guys that are still sort of making their hay. I mean, what have they won versus what did they inherit? DJ Durkin wins 8 games next year. He's a hell of a football coach.
Well, I think the top 5's pretty solid with Saban, Meyer. I had a little bit of an inner debate with Jimbo and Dabo, but I put Jimbo ahead of him because he's got the national title. Then I put Mark D'Antonio 5, and I believe in that because he's done such a fantastic job there. And then Harbaugh was 6. I think Harbaugh's the real deal. I mean, look what he did in 1 year. Michigan was a disaster in Brady Hoke's last year. He flips them into a 10-win team that starts pitching shutouts. He's kind of overtaken the news cycle. Anytime we run something on Jim Harbaugh, we know people are going to read it. And
he's more interesting than Saban, right? At this point.
Oh, he's the most interesting coach in the game right now. And I went to a satellite camp. Those aren't a big deal, by the way. And he just seems destined to get Michigan back, maybe in the playoff. I mean, they got to win a Big Ten title. They haven't done that since 2004. I think that's the next step for him: win a Big Ten championship and beat those 2 rivals that he didn't beat last year.
Bill Bender can be followed out on Twitter at BillBender92 as well as at Sporting News, and you can find his list. 128 coaches, right? Somebody had to be 128th.
Yeah, there was a lot of them, and again, like I said, it's a challenge. But I tried to be, even with the group of 5, like I said, being a MAC grad, I took my time on those. Frank Solich is on there. He's the guy that, the longest tenured group of 5 coach. It's amazing the things you pick up when you do a list. You do learn a little bit when you look through all those coaches. A thing or two you might have missed before that.
Dabo's kind of new to the whole party, right? I mean, he's the newest superstar over the last, 5 years or so, and what he's done there. That has been an incredible reclamation project. I mean, being an ACC guy and having watched, the Danny Ford era and that era of what we would call cheating back in the day, because it was 35 years ago. But Clemson arriving as this superpower, that's kind of interesting from a college football perspective, for me at least.
They're legit. I mean, they're a legit top 5 program because of him, because of the recruiting, because of the big games they've won. I mean, they look into last year, they get to the national championship, but before that they had beaten LSU in a bowl game. They beat Ohio State in a bowl game. They pounded Oklahoma in a bowl game, then beat them again. I mean, he's won big game after big game there, and he does it with that energy. I think people get lost in the dancing and the pizza parties and those kind of things, but he's a legit, down-to-earth, just one heck of a football coach. And I don't think Clemson's going anywhere under his watch. I think the next question for him is, when Saban retires, is he going to entertain going back to his alma mater?
Well, and that'll be the Roy Williams question, right? He'll be getting that one right until it's over with. And it doesn't look like Saban wants to leave anytime soon. And for you with off-season and getting ready for the year, and I know the magazine's out with Sporting News now, give me a top 5 and give me the teams that you're watching and why you think they're the elite teams summertime.
Yeah, I mean, our top 4, the playoff picks we had right now were they're not crazy at all. I mean, we had Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State, which that's just so
that's
conservative.
Chalk, right?
Yeah, that's just taking chalk in the bracket, and I know it's not going to, probably all 4 aren't going to hit, but I mean, it's just kind of kind of like a stock report. That's who I believe in. But there are other teams out there. I think this year, it's kind of wide open. I still think Alabama's obviously the team to beat, but I mean, you look at a team like Baylor, they could still be really good. Michigan State are in the hunt. I think Florida State and Clemson will be interesting. I really am intrigued by Houston if they beat Oklahoma, what kind of conversation that'll create. Because if you want to talk about coaches, and we didn't really talk about it much, I really think Tom Herman's the next big thing. And that's not just off last year and the work he did at Ohio State. That feels like how Urban Meyer felt when he was at Utah, where you're kind of like, this guy's coming and he's going to be big no matter where he lands.
For you with the Baylor situation, that's been probably the biggest mess, less than the last 90 days anyway, but what a mess it is, right?
Yeah, it is. Unfortunate, really. I mean, I've been telling people, when I knew it was really going to go downhill real fast was when you started hearing people saying, would you send your daughter there? And I was thinking about it because I have a daughter, and I was like, Oh yeah, that's bad. And that's the thing. They got to take care of the victims first. They got to make sure this kind of rash of assaults never happens again. And like I told you, I think Jim Grobe is a guy that can help do that. Will it cost them a win or two on the field? It might, but who cares? I mean, fix up your program. They don't have to lose everything they've built there. The stadium, the high scoring offense and those kind of things. But they do need to do things the right way. And, it's not just Baylor right now. I mean, Ole Miss is in the crosshairs, and there's a couple other programs that, the NCAA will always be busy in that regard.
Feels like a couple minutes ago we had the draft. Bill Bender joining us here from Sporting News talking college football. All right, give me a couple of players here. Where's the Heisman watch begin for you this year?
Oh, that's going to be awesome to figure out because, this is a star-studded year. I mean, it starts with guys like Deshaun Watson, obviously. I think he's the best player in college football. Leonard Fournette might be the best running back prospect I've seen since Adrian Peterson. And even Christian McCaffrey. I mean, what do you do for an encore? And then after that, you got guys like Dalvin Cook, J.T. Barrett, Baker Mayfield. I mean, it goes down. But the thing with that, every year it seems like last year at this time, nobody was really talking about Derrick Henry. So I fully anticipate one or two guys, maybe it's a guy like Elijah Hood for North Carolina, just come out of nowhere and have a monster season and take it.
Yeah, nobody was talking about the kid from Alabama until nobody could tackle him,
Yeah.
And even with the draft, we'll see how that turns out for him in the NFL. Hey, it's great having you on, man. I'll send everybody out to Sporting News to follow your work. Bill Bender 92 is the place on Twitter, and I know you got a whole summer of college football to write about, and a very, very thirsty audience at this point, right?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I would love to do this again as we get closer to the season. And, like you said, check us out at sportingnews.com. We'll get after it.
I'm just not going to call you the week Maryland's going to get their butts kicked by Ohio State.
Okay.
See you later, Bill. Bill Bender, 92, the way to follow him out on Twitter as well as at sportingnews.com. You can find me out at WNST.net anytime. We're in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Just download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear anywhere the internet is served. The morning newspaper comes to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. It is powered up by Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life. And it's just easy. It just comes to you every morning, and there it is. You get all the headlines, all the box scores, all the standings, all a click away at WNST.net. Breaking news will happen first on the text service. That's our best service. It's been going on 10 years now. If you're not on it, you're not getting the breaking news first. Simple as that. Anything with the Orioles, the Ravens, the Terps, it comes to you there. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. I am putting together some of my interviews of my youth. It's made me kind of squirm a little bit or even chuckle a little bit, the crazy things I may have said to Billy Joel in 1989. But the WNST Rock Week, our first ever Rock Week, July 11th, the week of the All-Star Game, kind of a slow week for sports radio. I have unearthed the whole vault of all kinds of old interviews with Daryl Hall and John Bon Jovi and the Black Crowes and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, all this cool stuff, Pat Benatar, Debbie Harry from Blondie, all that's going to be running the week of July 11th with some stories, some pictures. I'm putting some of that stuff on Facebook and on social media. It is WNST Rock Week. That is the hashtag on that. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me anywhere the internet is served. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports